everyone, it's Nadia and Jake, and this is Buddy, Sedona, and like always, Babu is downstairs playing. And today we're talking about
Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse.
Yes, we just watched it yesterday, and we can't wait to talk about it. So non-spoilers first. I would definitely recommend this film. Let me just start out with that. The action scenes, the music, everything blends so well together. I was actually not expecting too much. It overdid my expectations. Like it outdid my expectations. I thought that the story had really real.
Why were you not expecting much?
I don't know. When something is more cartoonish, anime-ish, or something, like unless it's like well known,
You like the first one though, right?
I like the first one, but they always like mess up on sequels in my experience, unless it's something well known. It's so easy to do it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And to make it more cliche. And it just starts to become more kiddish and childish. So anyway, I wasn't expecting too much, and I really was impressed. I thought the story had real substance in there. The story about the multi-universe. They did it in a way that I honestly found it better than Doctor Strange. I like how they called it Spiderverse or Spiderverse or whatever. I liked meeting different Peter Parkers, but also Miles. I mean, I don't want to reveal too much, but like I liked the story going on with him about what makes him Miles, what makes him Spider-Man, how he behaves as a Spider-Man. I liked looking at alternate reality that really has a message out there. I liked seeing his relationship with his parents. I liked that he was able to capture the complexity of being a person of color, to be honest. I think it was very subtle, but I related to that. I really like that they made this movie. I really like that they made a Spider-Man who was a person of color, and I really hope that they make like a live action version of him as well. Donald Glover, I think, is a perfect actor for that. I would say 8.5 out of 10.
8.5 out of 10?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what dropped it down for you from a higher score?
Oh, the ending. I don't know if this is spoiler or not, but ending was like, I'll go more in detail with it at the spoiler section, but the ending was not satisfying at all.
Okay.
And it's not in the worst way. It's just that I guess like it just didn't end
it's
the way I wanted it to end.
Well, it's sort of like your score will go up or down depending on the third movie.
Yeah, and I would say the ending was very similar to Infinity War. A lot of people see Infinity War Endgame as one film. And so I think that third installation, it's kind of weird to say it's a third movie because it just seems like it's the part 2 of the second film. Because this one was so good, but it was unsatisfying. And I think it was done intentionally. So honestly, it could be like 9.5 out of 10 for me, because I know that the lack of satisfaction I felt was intentional, so that I would go to box office. But I also am like, oh my god, I have to wait a whole freaking year and a half. But also like I know what's gonna happen. It's not that it's like unpredictable, oh my god, what's going to happen. It's more so like I want to see how they make those things happen that I predict will happen. And also anything else that comes as a result of it, I'm sure. So yeah. What did you think?
Well, we know what Sedona thinks. I think that it was very, very, very good. And I don't know how to compare it to Into the Spider-Verse. I really liked that one as well, but I also felt like that one didn't have the strongest ending necessarily. I thought this one it felt like it just took the animation to a whole level. Just like comparing this to other superhero movies, it's night and day. Just the visual inventiveness and creativity and the character designs, the music with the visual, like just from the beginning, like you're being in, it's like a cinematic experience, unlike a lot of these superhero movies. So you have to praise it for that. Like it is just absolutely beautiful to watch, totally rewatchable, because it's such an onslaught of just images and colors that there were so many points in the movie where I'm like, oh, hold on, can I just look at that shot a little longer?
The cinematic experience was phenomenal, like absolutely phenomenal. Like Jake said, the colors, everything, it's just like, it was so grand. Every cost was like put into the user experience. It was just really good.
I absolutely loved that aspect of it. I really feel like it deserves a rewatch because I do think the story was actually pretty complex. There were a lot of like various plot threads that of course they're going to be wrapped up in the third movie, but I kind of differ with people where I think that it is a satisfying movie on its own if you're aware that there is a cliffhanger. But I do feel like a lot of the emotional beats get wrapped up and pushed forward. I feel like this movie's focused mostly on Gwen, Spider-Gwen.
And Miles.
Yeah, but like that story of her with her father, that was very important. And just we're setting up a lot of stuff in this movie, and I'm glad that it took the time. You do feel watching it like, the pace is a little different, you know? It feels a bit more, like you're going into something for the long haul. And then when it cuts short, it's kind of, I was personally like, yeah, good, because I don't want this to be a 3.5 hour movie. I do think that like having that huge cliffhanger is going to turn some people off and be like, oh, what the hell? But, I think hopefully it'll pay off in the third one. I just think, they really expanded on the world and worlds that they explore. My main issue with the movie, though, is some of the jokes are kind of cringy. I mean, there's, your mileage may vary, but like, there's some gags that I thought were great visual ones. There's like a Lego gag that I thought was fantastic. But then there were things that just wasn't, it was just like, I don't know. It wasn't my type of humor, but everything else was so fantastic. And there were very funny jokes, and like the family dynamics is what's so great about these movies. The very realistic family dynamics, the relationships, solid on so many levels. And the only reason people will have an issue with this movie, I think, is just that, cliffhanger. But again, I do think that it helps, and it's going to make this movie seem sort of special. I do think that when the whole trilogy is revealed, I know we have to wait a couple years, but once that happens, I think that people will have a better idea of the full, you can't really judge a thing until it's all complete. And now that we know that, well, I guess we knew, some people knew early on, apparently this was supposed to be, they were originally going to title it like Spider-Verse Part 1 and Part 2. Sort of like how they did Infinity War. It was going to be Part 1, Part 2, but then they did Infinity War, then Endgame. So I guess I think the marketing could have been better for people to know, like, hey, this is part 1.
Yeah, because I definitely expected like a whole, like a full-on satisfying ending. Obviously, there's going to be a cliffhanger for like any Marvel films, right? It's like,
I think people's experience watching the movie will actually benefit knowing that it is a part 1. Do you want to do spoilers?
Yeah. What would you rate it?
Oh, I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. It could go higher, but I doubt it would go lower.
All right, spoilers. 1, 2, 3. So I really loved, I swear. So I really loved the perspective of it going from Gwen, because in a lot of Spider-Man films, Gwen dies. And Gwen is not like, there's MJ, who's really supposed to be Spider-Man's, but we find out that Miles is anomaly.
That I love that twist of he's like the most he's the least Spider-Man, but also the most, because he's the most everyman of them all.
Yeah, he's an anomaly.
They're all destined towards these things, but he's not.
His storyline is great as an audience member, because you really can't predict exactly where it'll go, because Peter Parker, we know how it ends. We know how it goes. We know like how many kids he's supposed to have. We know all the comic history. And this one is of us actually unraveling who's Miles, how his story ends. And, I think like what I was saying in a non-spoiler section, I think it is like predictable that him and Gwen will get together, because, Miles is obviously in love with Gwen. I think there's going to be I don't know if they will end up being together at the end of the second film, because Gwen did betray him by not telling him about his dad. But then, of course, we're seeing things through both Miles and Gwen's perspective, which is what I really loved about the film. It starts with Gwen's perspective, then it starts with Miles' perspective.
A really long intro before the titles.
Yeah, and we see those stories merge together. So it's really like a story about both of them, but each having their own perspective. I felt like I was reading a book where I flipped a chapter and it was about this person's perspective, and how they merge together. And I really love that. So I think there's a lot of hurdles, obviously, that has to overcome. It has to be overcome. And Gwen obviously makes the right decision at the end by going to pursue a journey where she's going to find Miles, and she's going to try to help him save his dad. And Miles gets stuck in the wrong Earth, where he is the bad guy, which I found so interesting. And we were talking about Donald Glover, a little appearance of
his cameo.
Yeah, his cameo, and him saying that he was a prowler.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be really interesting. There's going to be like multiple antagonists then in this next movie, which could be a problem, but they could handle it well.
Well, I think like it's a really good revelation that, in fact, the Peter Parkers and the other Spider-Men were wrong. His dad had to die in order for something else to happen, because this universe, this Earth, Miles's dad does in fact die, and he ends up becoming someone bad, you know? So obviously him being anomaly actually is what saves him and gives him a great, bright future. So I think if anything, it shows that the future is really not this linear, not linear necessarily, but like they were showing a tree with different branches and everything else, and anomaly creates something else. And if you mess with one, then it can really have a great impact in all of the Spider-Man's worlds. I think it's a little bit more complicated than that. And I think that's what we hopefully will see in the next film, in my point of view.
Favorite scene?
Favorite scene is probably Gwen and Miles, when Gwen travels to Miles's universe and they go to this construction site, or top of the building actually, and then they sit upside down. They're just talking to each other, and you really see that the love is there, but also you can kind of see the complexity of them being together. I really like that. I also loved Miles' scene with his mom, about his mom. I thought it was funny, first of all, don't take my son away from me. But then like she really like supports him. She really comes around to him. And you can really see like that, the love that Miles has with his parents and the support. They're honestly like the perfect family in a lot of ways. So.
I really like that you're choosing the like more quiet emotional scenes, because I think that's where the movie really, it's really great. And I think that's where it even expands on the first movie with those quieter scenes. But I'm also surprised you aren't picking, because there's so many great action scenes, set pieces in the movie. My favorite scene is all the Spider-Man chase, when all the Spider-Men are chasing him out of the headquarters.
Oh yeah, and Miles wins against all of them. Well, you know, the thing is, I really expected those great action scenes because I found those in the first film as well. So yes, they're amazing, and that's one of the reasons why my rating is so high for the film, but I expected it, right? So I'd be more disappointed if that wasn't there. I think for a lot of films like this, it's really awesome that they also expand on the emotional, more inner monologue, us to be able to see what's really going on with the characters, the troubles, everything else that's going through that in a non-cliche way, and I think they really do justice in this. I also like, by the way, that they showed Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, like a little cameo when they were looking at the past and other features.
They did him, and they did Tobey Maguire too.
Yeah. So, and I like that they had like real humans versus cartoons and what you were saying, the Legos, and it was really funny. I thought it was so funny. I was really surprised. I actually didn't find any jokes cringy. It made me be like, oh, of course, that's a dad joke. It's a mom joke. Like, you know, but...
I mean, it was just a little too cutesy, certain jokes and certain moments.
Cutesy.
Yeah. But for me, I was just like, okay. But there were a lot of funny stuff, especially with, you know, I thought the family stuff with Miles' parents and stuff was very funny. But yeah, there are a lot of good laughs too.
I will say that I really liked that they represented Spider-Man from different ethnicities. And I really liked the Indian Spider-Man because it was like funny. I don't have to try, but I do anyway. Hey, you know, I have the answer to that. I thought that was funny.
It was good, yeah.
I also like the British Spider-Man who was doing protests and all these other things, and it was like, I'm out, man, at the end when, you know, the leader Spider-Man was I liked the way that they formatted him.
The art was super cool. I liked the character, but there were some jokes where it was just kind of like corporations trying to be edgy, and it was just kind of like, all right, we get it. He's anti-authority. I don't know. It was just, it always feels a little like weird when these like big corporate productions are trying to have kind a character who's like, I'm an anarchist. I'm just stealing things.
The production of that, yeah.
It's just like, I don't know. I can never.
And I feel like it never produces them kind of like correctly. They more produce them as a caricature of like these people too. Yeah,
you're right. That was a little cringy for me, but I mean, I thought the style and the art of his character was really good.
I like that the Peter Parker that Miles knew, he had a daughter.
He was annoying to me in this movie. I'm sorry. He was just extra. I don't know.
He would
the dad jokes.
He makes sense as all of the Spider-Mans together because he's like warm, hearty, kind of like
too cutesy for me.
Cutesy kind of like person in there. But if he was the only Spider-Man in there next to Miles and Gwen, I think he would be annoying. I also like in the beginning how Gwen's dad was ready to arrest her and ended up quitting his job as a captain in order to kind of support her. And that also means that, you know, he's not going to get killed.
He was going to arrest her. I mean, yeah, that was pretty brutal. That whole fight scene in the museum was really good. I really liked that.
I liked how it showed like different parental relationship. Like you have Gwen's dad who's not understanding, or like it took a long time to turn around. He didn't react very well to his daughter being Spider-Woman, obviously. Miles' parents, they would react probably very well. I mean, of course, they would be shocked and they would be probably, I don't know. I mean, we'll find out in the next film.
Oh, can I say a guess?
I think it would be a good decision to tell them. Yeah.
Can I say a guess? So the bad Spider-Man who has like the claws, I forget his name, but the one in charge of the group.
Yeah.
I think that he isn't actually a Spider-Man. I think because they hint at he has like claws, he's like has some kind of like shape-shifting.
No.
I think that he isn't.
True.
And I think that it's going to be found out he replaced a Spider-Man in his universe because he wanted to be Spider-Man, but he actually isn't. So
no, I think what's going to happen, here's a prediction actually from me, and let's do a prediction for you before we end.
That was my prediction.
Oh, okay. Because they showed that his alternate version died and then he replaced him to be with the family, and they end up messing things up. I think what actually happened is he killed his alternate version because he was the real Spider-Man. He was jealous because he didn't get like the powers that his alternate versions did. So he thought he could replace him, and he was kind of obsessed with this idea of having powers, because even when he was chasing Miles was like, you have claws? You don't like, what kind of Spider-Man are you? Remember? He says that. When he crawls up.
Why is he so concerned now with saving the canon stories now?
I think it's because it messes up. There's something that will reveal something about himself. Maybe it messes up his storyline or something like that.
Maybe, yeah.
I think he's trying to protect himself instead of like kind of like be the person who is looking out for all these universe and all these other Spider-Woman as well. I think he's really looking out for himself, and Miles, being an anomaly, is able to actually reveal that through preventing his father's death. All right. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. Well, let us know your thoughts.
We'll talk to you soon.
We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye.